Hey guys, and welcome to today's video. So in today's video, I'm gonna be sharing with you my 2020 favorites. And this took me way longer than I'm willing to admit to put together because there have been so many releases this year and so many good ones. This has been a really good year for makeup, specifically drugstore makeup. I feel like the past year or so, they've really stepped up their game, especially brands like e.l.f. I think that they were a shining star in 2020. So all of the products I'm gonna mention are products that were either released this year or new to me this year. Most of these are new releases, but some of them are just discoveries that I have personally fallen in love with this year. So these are certainly not all the products that I've loved this year. If you watch my What's New at the Drugstore series, you'll see the products that were hits and the products that were misses, but this is the best of the best of the best. But there's still a ton of stuff to get through. So I'm gonna go ahead and get right into it and kind of go through these products somewhat quickly so that we can get through all of them without this being the longest video of all time. So I'm gonna go through these products sort of in the order that I do my makeup, starting with the base. And without even realizing it, all of the base products ended up being foundation alternatives. I don't have any foundations. And I think that's a testament to how little I've left my house this year. We've spent most of the year in quarantine and social distancing. So most of the time in the morning, I'm getting ready for myself and just want something to even out my skin tone, but I'm not looking for a full glam face of makeup to just sit at home. So the first favorite of the year base product is this Botanical Sunscreen Tinted Face. This has an SPF of 50 and it comes with a ton of product. This comes with 3 fluid ounces of product and it is super affordable on Amazon. I got mine in the medium to tan shade. They were sold out of the light to medium, but this works for my skin, specifically in the summer, which is when I was using this every day. My daughter loves to be outside, and so I would be outside with her all day, every day. And this is something that I could just throw on like a sunscreen or a moisturizer and really be protecting my face, but also get this to even out my skin tone. This has a very light coverage, so if you like products with more coverage, you're probably not gonna love this. But for a sunscreen that just has some tint to it, this is perfect, and it will be probably my go-to next summer as well because I love that it has a 50 SPF. It's like a legit SPF. It has more of a natural finish. It's not super shiny on my oily skin, and it's never broken me out. It's never irritated my really sensitive skin. So had to put this in here. I absolutely love this. All right, kind of on that same note is another tinted sunscreen that I just used all the time throughout the summer and even into the fall. And this is the CeraVe Hydrating Sunscreen with an SPF of 30. This is a mineral sunscreen, great for sensitive skin. You guys know I have used CeraVe products forever. I trust them. They are no frills, really good for sensitive skin, and I think one of the best skincare lines out there, not just at the drugstore. And so when I saw them come out with something that had a little bit of pigment to it, I was really excited because I knew I could trust it, and it did not let me down. Again, what you're getting out of this is, like it says, it's a tinted sunscreen. This is not going to be full coverage. This is not even going to be a medium coverage product. This is like a sheer to light coverage, but you're getting the skincare benefits, you're getting the SPF, and just a little bit of pigment that goes along with it. This one, if I'm comparing it to the Australian Gold one, is a little bit more on the dewy side. It's definitely got a lot more of a sunscreeny type feel to it than this one. This one is a little bit more moussey, where this one feels more like traditional sunscreen. But if you want that mineral sunscreen and you want something that you can trust from a skincare brand that you trust, I highly recommend this. All right, these last two base products are new finds for me as of the last couple of months, and they have just wowed me so much that they made it into this video. And the first is something I think I've talked about in like 3 of my 4 last videos, and it's the L'Oreal Water-Infused Tinted Moisturizer. This is the Skin Paradise line. I love this tinted moisturizer. I have used this non-stop ever since I got it. I raved about it in my What's New at the Drugstore video and in my favorites video. This has aloe vera in it, it has witch hazel, and it's a super thin consistency. Unlike most tinted moisturizers that feel thicker and like a cream, this really does feel like water. Goes on super thin, but it still has pretty decent coverage for how thin of a product it is. Like I said, I've talked about this a lot, so I'm not going to go on and on about it because those of you that have seen my last couple of videos are probably tired of hearing about it. but I highly, highly recommend this. All right, next up is a product that I have not yet talked about on my channel. I posted about it on Instagram, but that is about it. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, this will be the first you're hearing of it, and it's made it into this video, which means I love it. And it is the e.l.f. Camo CC Cream. This is a brand new launch from e.l.f. and it is fantastic. I've only been using this for a few days, but I can already tell this is going to be one of my go-tos because I don't know if you guys saw my video where I talked about high-end products that I can't replace, that I've never been able to dupe. And one of those is the IT Cosmetics CC Cream, and this is the closest product I have ever tried to the IT Cosmetics CC Cream. The consistency of it is almost identical, the coverage is almost identical, and obviously the packaging as well. As a side note, they also came out with a very similar brush, the dual-sided brush, that's very similar to the IT Cosmetics brush that I also put in that video. But dupe aside, as a standalone product, this is wonderful. It has collagen, peptides, niacinamides, an SPF of 30, and for a CC cream, it has a lot of options in terms of color selection. I am in the shade Light 240W, and it's a perfect match for me. So if you're usually a match with me, definitely go with that color. This provides a full coverage, but you're still getting all of those benefits, and it lasts really well on my oily skin. By the very, very end of the day, like I'm talking when I'm taking my makeup off, it's starting to break down, but the same thing happens to me with the IT Cosmetics one and pretty much any foundation on my oily skin. By the end of the day, my skin is starting to break it down a little bit, so I kind of expect that. But this was such a pleasant surprise for me, it had to make it into this video. It's an excellent product. All right, next up is concealer. There's a ton of amazing concealers at the drugstore, but these were the concealers that I tried this year that I absolutely fell in love with. The first one is the No. 7 Lift and Luminate Serum Concealer. Like it says, this is a serum encapsulated into a concealer, so you're getting the skincare benefits as well as the coverage. This has been my go-to for really light makeup days. It's a super, super thin formula, so you can go as light as you want in terms of coverage, and it doesn't look like there's anything on your skin. It's not like that thick, pasty concealer, which is great for full coverage, but not so great for looking natural and natural skin. I love how lightweight and thin this is, and that you can make it look like you don't have any makeup on whatsoever. I have mine in the shade Light, and this is just a go-to for me. Trying to pick up the pace a little bit, I feel like I went on a super tangent with the e.l.f. CC cream. All right, this next concealer is actually something I tried based on a subscriber recommendation. It was one of my videos where I was testing your hidden drugstore gems. I believe that's the video that this one came up in. And it is the Neutrogena Radiant Cream Concealer. It kind of reminds me of the NARS Creamy Concealer just in consistency. This one's a little bit thinner than that one, but it still kind of surprises you on the coverage that it provides for the consistency that it is. You think that it's gonna look a lot more like this No. 7 one and be more of a medium coverage, but this really does provide excellent coverage without that thick, cakey feel to it. This is also made with peptides and antioxidants. Anytime I can get a little bit of skincare in my makeup, I am on board. And I just feel like this is a really good step up from the No. 7 concealer, which is for the no makeup days. This is for your kind of regular makeup days. I would use this like I would use the Maybelline Fit Me. And then you've got like the CoverGirl True Blend Concealer and the L'Oreal Infallible Concealer for those really full coverage days. Absolutely fell in love with this year and can't wait to continue using it. And then the final concealer that I fell in love with this year is this one by e.l.f. This is actually called a brightener, not a concealer. But like I said when I talked about it in my What's New at the Drugstore video, you can use this as a concealer. It's not going to be super full coverage, but it's more than just a brightener. That said, it does definitely brighten. If you wanted to go in with a fuller coverage concealer and then just layer this on top to brighten that concealer a little bit, maybe brighten your under eyes or highlight the center of your face, this will work for that purpose. But I've just been using this on a daily basis as my concealer, and I love it. The shade that I have been using is Light 26N, and it has a little clicker applicator and a brush tip, which is really gentle on the eye area, and I never find that too much product comes out. Unlike the Age Rewind, where it's like a hit or miss. Sometimes it'll come flying out, sometimes it won't come out. I really like this applicator and I haven't had any trouble. All right, moving on to powder. The only powder that I've tested this year that I felt strongly enough about to include in this video is the Essence My Skin Perfector loose fixing powder. This powder does such a great job of blurring right here where my pores are a little bit bigger, and it does have a matte finish. That said, this isn't going to be like a Rimmel Stay Matte or like the Wet n Wild loose powder that's going to keep you matte all day. It will have a matte finish, but if you get super shiny, you may want to pair it with one of those powders to control the oil. I have mine in the shade Light, and it works great for me. It's so thin, so finely milled, and it just goes on like silk on your skin, and I absolutely love the way that this makes my pores look. I feel like this is a great just finishing powder to make everything look perfect and airbrushed. All right, next up we have bronzers, and I have 3 that I wanted to mention. The first is the Physicians Formula Organic Wear Sculpting Bronzer. I recently discovered this, and as you can tell, it's been well loved. I've been using this as my bronzer on a daily basis and just putting it wherever I want it and blending it out with some sort of a buffing brush. This blends absolutely beautifully. It's so creamy, but yet it lasts and kind of sets once it dries, and it's really easy to layer on throughout the day. So if I want to amp up my bronzer a little bit, I can just put another swipe of this and blend that in, and it looks good as new. So absolutely love this stuff. The next is a product from Flower Beauty. This is the Heat Wave Bronzing Essence. I talked about this more towards the beginning of the year and fell in love with it. I feel like this is a really innovative product. It's hard to find stuff like this at the drugstore. This feels really luxury. It's like a glass bottle. It almost looks like a serum, but you can use this in the same way that I just described that I use the Physicians Formula one, just as your liquid bronzer, or you can mix a couple drops of this into a foundation or a moisturizer or a primer to just get an all-over bronzed effect. This is beautiful for the summer. It's like a golden color. I love the tone of this bronzer, and I just feel like this is a really unique product that performs amazingly well from a brand that I love, so I had to mention it. And then the last bronzer is the one that I'm wearing today, and this is not going to come as a surprise to anyone. This is the e.l.f. Primer-infused bronzer. I have mine in the shade Forever Sunkissed. This is one of the best bronzers that I have tried from the drugstore ever, and is a standout product for me this year. It really does feel like it is infused with a primer. This is one of the only bronzers I can put on bare skin that doesn't go on muddy or streaky because it is infused with a primer. This blends absolutely beautifully, builds really well, and it's everything you want out of a bronzer. So love, love, love. All right, next up are blushes. I'm not gonna talk about this formula again, but the blushes in this primer infused line are just as good as the bronzer. Highly recommend. But the first blush that I want to talk about is this palette by BH Cosmetics. This is the Vanilla Cream Truffle 4 blush palette. It comes with a mirror, which I always love, and these 4 beautiful shades. When I first tested this, I told you guys I really liked it. I thought it was a little bit pricey for what you get, but I have found myself reaching for this non-stop. And sometimes when I try a product, I'm like, yeah, I like this, but I don't know how much I'm gonna love it until 6 months down the road. I'm like, wow, I've reached for that blush palette probably more than any other blush palette I have in my collection. So this is one of those products that kind of snuck up on me. I liked it when I tried it, great formula, but didn't realize how versatile it was until I couldn't put it down. So great formula, great product, and the colors in here are fantastic. All right, next up is this e.l.f. Face Duo. e.l.f. has been probably the brand of the year, honestly, with the amount of products that they've come out with. And you'll see that reflected in a lot of my choices here, but this palette was no exception. This blush is the one that I have on right now. Beautiful formula, feels really high end. And then the highlighter, same thing, absolutely stunning. Better than a lot of the highlighting formulas that come from e.l.f. So I don't know what they did with this specific highlighter formula, but I want to see more of it. I love the way that they did this for maybe novice makeup users or people that are newer to makeup. First of all, it's $3, so it's accessible to everyone. And second of all, they pair the highlighter with the blush. So if you struggle with matching tones, like what blush goes with what highlighter, they've kind of done the work for you and given you the perfect pair. So amazing formula, and I love the concept and the price point. All right, again from e.l.f. Next up is a newer release from them. This is the e.l.f. Putty Blush. Fan-freaking-tastic. You guys know I've talked about this recently before. This is a cream blush that the drugstore can be so proud of. Up until this point, my favorite cream blush has been the Honest Beauty one, which I still absolutely love, but it is a lot more expensive than this e.l.f. one, and I think this does the same thing. It gets the same job done. Obviously the ingredients are going to be different, so if that's something that's important to you, I'd still go with the Honest one. But if you're looking for just the same effect at a better price point, this is incredible. You can just put a little bit on your brush and get a little bit of a wash of color, or you can really build this up. Sorry, I just had to go get my dog to stop barking. There's a dog outside that will start barking, and then he'll start barking, and it's just this competition, and I had to end it. So I don't know where I left off, but love this putty blush. I think I went on about it long enough. All right, next up is a highlighting palette. This one is by Essence. This is the Pure Nude highlighting palette. Mine is so beat up from my daughter dropping it. That's where this color went, and then the move, that's where this color went. So normally it looks a lot better than this, but I've been using the remnants of these two shades because I love them so much, and this is probably going to still last me a really long time. Comes with a nice big mirror and a ton of product. These were inspired by the popularity of their Pure Nude single highlighter that everyone loves. These are a little bit more pigmented, a little bit more intense than that highlighter, but I love that about it. The original Pure Nude highlighter is great for like that candlelit, very soft glow. These are a little bit more glam than that, a little bit more amped up, and there isn't a shade in here that I don't use. They're all absolutely stunning, but if you don't drop it or move with it, this could last you a really long time. All right, last face product before we move on to eyes and lips. And this is another recommendation from you guys from one of the videos where I asked you to tell me products to try. And it is the Physicians Formula Butter Collection in collaboration with Whaley. This comes with 2 bronzers, 2 blushes, and 2 highlighters. And I love that you have the flexibility of kind of more of a contour cool toned bronzer, as well as more of a cool toned blush, and then a warm toned kind of classic bronzer shade and a warm toned blush. Obviously I stick with in this region a little bit more because I like warmer tones on my skin because my skin leans warm, but I still use these and love them. And then the highlighters are super pigmented. I've been using them more as eyeshadow than actual highlighters, but love, love, love everything in this palette. It's like an all-in-one for travel, for situations where you don't want to pack a bronzer, a blush, and a highlighter. This has you covered, and every product in here is so good. So thank you guys for recommending this because I have fallen in love with it. All right, I'm picking up the pace if you guys can't tell. Next up we have eyeshadow palettes. I'm pretty sure that these are going to be in every single person's best of 2020 video, and they are the e.l.f. bite-size palettes. I'm actually wearing this one today. It's in the shade Truffles. I feel like this is a really good wintry palette. But I also have the shade Very Bad, which I love. Again, $3. Same thing as the face palette. I love that they pre-select the color choices for you. Instead of looking at a massive palette and feeling overwhelmed, you can create cohesive eye looks with these, and you know what colors are gonna look good together. So it's almost like they curate eye looks for you with an incredible formula, incredible, and such an affordable price point. So huge, huge shout out to e.l.f. for these palettes because they are fantastic. All right, next up is my favorite palette from ColourPop, I think ever. That came out this year and pretty recently, and it's the Grandeur palette. This is a pretty neutral palette, but it also has really intense pops of shimmer and glitter, and you can create a really glam, not so neutral eye look with this. The shadows in here, I know ColourPop makes great eyeshadow formulas, but there's something about the mattes in here specifically that blend like a dream. I think I told you guys the first time I used it, I wasn't really paying attention and dug my brush in there, and I went on just like a ton of powder, and I just blended it out, and it blended out seamlessly. And there are high-end eyeshadows that don't do that. You can't screw up this formula. It is so forgiving, so blendable, and it just feels like it should be way more expensive than it is. If these tones speak to you, I promise you this formula will not let you down. So we're gradually getting larger here with the eyeshadow palettes. The next standout eyeshadow palette to me this year was the LA Girl Break Free eyeshadow palette. These come with a huge mirror, so this has been kept in my bathroom, and whenever I want to do something where I need a little bit closer than my bathroom mirror, this is the mirror I've been using. So love that all on its own. But the shadows in here are just so stunning. The mattes are creamy and blendable, and the shimmers are super intense. You get so much product in here, and you could create so many different looks with a palette like this, both neutral and kind of intense, like with this pop of yellow. When I think of eyeshadows, I don't really think of LA Girl, so this, at least for me, put them on the map in terms of eyeshadow quality, and this has been one of my go-to palettes this year. All right, and then last but not least, I have talked about this a couple of times recently as well, but it deserves to be in this video. Anyone that has their hands on this palette, I think, would agree. And this is the BH Cosmetics Naughty palette. Like I said, we are gradually getting bigger. I've talked about this a lot recently, so I'm not gonna go on for too long, but the color story in here is epic. It is so magical, and it makes me feel so inspired every time I open this palette. The quality of these shadows, the amount of product that you're getting, and the price point just can't be beat. If you want a variety of color choices and formulas, because you've got glitters, shimmers, and mattes in here, with an incredible price point, I cannot recommend this enough, and I will probably be using this all year next year for different looks, so definitely get your hands on it while it's here. All right, next up we have brows, and there are 3 brow products that really stood out to me this year. And the first is this Milani Weekend Brow Pen. Brow pens always used to scare me because I felt like it would look like I was drawing my brows on with a pen, but this really changed my mind on brow pens. The tip on this is so fine that you can really make it look like you have brow hair strokes with a pen like this. I think if you go a shade lighter than what you typically would with a pen, it can look so natural, and that's what I did with this, and it's pretty much foolproof. It's also really highly pigmented to where you don't have to kind of shake it and put the cap back on every 2 seconds to finish your brows, but it's not too pigmented to where too much product comes out and it bleeds onto your skin. This is just everything and more that you could ever want out of a brow pen at an affordable price. Now this one, I can't say that it's perfect, but I have been using it nonstop ever since I got it, and I think it's really innovative, so I had to make it into this video. And this is the Lottie London Arch Rival. This claims to provide a microblade effect, and that's because it has almost like a razor point with 3 sharp edges, and it can create 3 brow strokes at a time. Like I said when I first talked about this, this is not gonna last you through your whole brow like the Milani one will. This dries up a lot faster, but the way that I've been using it is just right here in the center where I have a lot more sparse hairs, and I wanna connect them in a natural way without it looking super unnatural. So I know it's a very specific use case, but it's actually something I've struggled with for a really long time, is finding a way to fill in the center of my brows without it looking really drawn on, and this has solved that for me. And even though it's not perfect, even though it does dry up, I don't see myself using anything else for the center of my brows in the near future. And then the last brow product is not going to be a surprise to anyone. This is another e.l.f. product. This is the e.l.f. Wow Brow. This is incredible, you guys. It has little fibers in it that add to your brows and make them look more full, while keeping them in place while providing additional pigment. You can use this all on its own for a natural brow day, or you can layer this on top of your already filled in brows, and it looks incredible both ways, and such an incredible price. All right, next up are eyeliners, and there are only 2 that I wanted to talk about. They're both liquid liners. And the first is from Flower Beauty. This is the Flower Beauty Forever Wear Winged Liner in the shade All Nighter. And the tip on this is so fine. This is perfect for creating wings. I have only been using this ever since I got it. This has been what's in my makeup drawer, and I am obsessed. It never runs out, it never bleeds, and this and the other one I'm going to mention are the best eyeliners I've used in a really long time for creating a wing, which, as we all know, is not easy. So the other one that I've been loving for the same reason is this L'Oreal Flash Cat Eye. This actually comes with a stencil that I've lost, but if that's something that would really help you in creating a cat eye, I think that's a really good idea. But this tip is very similar to the Flower Beauty one. It's just a little bit smaller, but I find it just as easy to create a cat eye or just to line my lid really quickly with a product like this, because same as the flower one, it never dries up. It's really important when you're creating a wing, because you could be just about to get the last stroke and your pen could dry up, and then you kind of have to start over and realign everything. So both of these are incredibly easy to work with, last all day, they don't transfer, they don't budge, they're extremely black, extremely pigmented, and they're just not going to go anywhere. So what else can you want out of a liner? All right, we've got mascaras and lipsticks, and then that's everything. So the two mascaras that stood out to me this year, that I discovered this year, are the L'Oreal Age Perfect mascara. Who surprised no one. This is probably my favorite mascara of the year. It is so underrated. I don't hear anyone talking about it, and I like this more than the Lash Paradise. I like this more than a lot of mascaras that are raved about. The first few times I used this, I wasn't super impressed, but as you guys know, when I'm prepping for a What's New at the Drugstore video, I use a product for at least a few days before I talk about it. So I forced myself to continue using it, even though I wasn't super impressed the first day. And this builds like crazy. You can just continue building and building. And those are the types of mascaras that I like. They don't go on super strong, but you can build them up as much as you want. And I just love the way that this makes my lashes look. It holds a curl really, really well. Just provides so much length for my not super long and very straight lashes. And then the other one that I fell in love with this year and discovered this year is the CoverGirl Lash Blast Clean Mascara. Very similar story to the Age Perfect one. It goes on really natural, but this builds and builds and builds to however intense you want your mascara to be. And I love when brands make an effort to use cleaner ingredients. So both highly, highly recommend. Two of the best mascaras that the drugstore has come out with in a long time. All right, last but not least are lipsticks. The first one is a formula that I think is really innovative and absolutely stunning. It is the L'Oreal Matte Colored Ink. This is exactly what it sounds like. It goes on like water. It's an extremely thin formula, but it dries down to a matte finish, but it's not the type of matte you're thinking, like a liquid lipstick. There's nothing thick about this formula. It feels like there's nothing on your lips. It almost feels more like a stain than it does a lipstick. It doesn't have the exact same staying power as a liquid lipstick. It's not gonna last you that long, but it's also not gonna look so drying, and it's easy to put back on without it looking really crepey. I love the shade I Create. This has definitely been the lip product I have worn most this year. All right, next up with more of a moisturizing formula is the Revlon Super Lustrous Lipstick. I think I saw Jessica Braun mention that this was a YSL dupe. I don't own YSL lipsticks, but I definitely trust her opinion, so you could save a lot of money there. But this has aloe and hyaluronic acid in it. It's a cross between a lipstick and a gloss, and it's the color I'm wearing today, though I have another one of these products layered on top, and this is the shade Glossed Up Rose. This is like a classic lipstick formula, which Revlon does really well, but amped up a little bit with the glossy finish. And I just think it's timeless, it's beautiful, and the shade range is everything. And then my favorite gloss that came out this year is the one that I have layered on top. This is the Milani Keep It Full Nourishing Lip Plumper. I have mine in the shade Champagne. Like I said about the L'Oreal liquid lipstick, this has been my most used gloss of the year, by far. I love this shade. You can layer it over any lipstick and it looks absolutely stunning. And this formula is everything you want out of a gloss. It looks shiny and juicy, but it's not sticky whatsoever. It lasts really well for a gloss. It stays on for a really long time, and it really does make your lips look a little bit more plump, even though there's no tingling feeling or plumping effect that's really happening. I also love that this isn't just a gloss, that it's very nourishing to the lips, so it's like wearing a chapstick, but a lot more glam than that. So my absolute favorite lip gloss formula of the year. And then the final one for me, which I don't think this came out this year, but it's definitely a discovery for me this year, is the Maybelline lipstick in the shade Baddest Beige. I've talked about this a ton and worn this a lot in videos, and it's a very similar formula to the Revlon one. It's like a glossy lipstick, which I have definitely steered away from more matte lipsticks and liquid lipsticks because I just don't find them very flattering on me. And I love the formula of these types of lipsticks that just make your lips look really juicy and healthy and not dried out. But I know with wearing a mask, those formulas can be a little bit more difficult. So I would say on a day-to-day, something like this is what I'm reaching for. And that is everything. I tried to go through this as quickly as I could, so hopefully this video isn't super long. But I would love to know what your favorite products of 2020 have been, so definitely leave them down in the comments below. I appreciate you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.